Hello. Welcome back to Snugglewood, young Dreamlynx. My name is Arin. Snuggle down into your coziest quilt and let tonight's calming tale and soothing sounds relieve you of any worries and guide you towards a deep, restful night's sleep under these beautiful stars above. And so our story begins in a place called Hearthstone Hamlet and the sleepy giant tale of Hearthstone Higulus. Hearthstone Higulus was a land brimming with magnificence, where rolling hills met expansive meadows, and towering forests cast long shadows that seemed to stretch into eternity. Known for its serene vistas and quiet atmosphere, it was a place where time meandered slowly, as if the world had taken a collective sigh and paused to rest. No matter how bustling life grew elsewhere in the world, Hearthstone Higulus remained an oasis of calm, untouched by the haste of everything around it. At the heart of this tranquil region lived a being spoken of in quiet words: the sleepy giant. This colossal figure was said to dwell deep within the valley of Hearthstone Higulus, hidden away from prying eyes by layers of dense, emerald-coloured foliage and mist-laden air. Though the giant was rarely, if ever, seen by the inhabitants of the surrounding villages, its presence was constant. The story said that its slumbering form radiated a quiet energy, one capable of lulling even the most restless soul into peaceful stillness. Legends told of how the sleepy giant had come to reside in Hearthstone Higulus in the first place. A being born of the earth and sky, it was said to have been drawn to the region's breathtaking tranquility. The meadows, awash in countless shades of green, called to it. The birdsong and rustling leaves mixed in a soothing chorus that harmonized with the rhythms of the giant's own heart. Over time, this great creature claimed Hearthstone Higulus as its haven, settling into the landscape like a mountain merging with its surroundings. And so it remained, as constant as the hills. Though the giant rarely stirred, its influence was felt. Farmers tending to their fields noted how crops blossomed in vigour, as though the land drew energy from the giant's resting form. Visitors who ventured into the forests near its rumoured location found their worries melting away, carried off like leaves drifting on the wind. Even those who could only dream of reaching the valley felt comforted by the idea of the sleepy giant, a colossal being who chose stillness over strife. The valley where the sleepy giant slumbered, however, held its own mysteries. It was said the air grew thicker there, carrying with it a sense of timelessness. The wind moved differently amid the trees, bending and swirling as if reluctant to disturb the endless calm. Moss climbed the trunks like creeping rivers, and the earth remained soft, as though perpetually cradling the weight of the resting giant. While villagers would sometimes catch glimpses of the valley from afar, few dared to approach it. It wasn't fear that kept them away, but an unspoken reverence for the sanctity of the place, a respect for the silence and stillness the sleepy giant embodied. Generations grew and passed in Hearthstone Higulus, yet the stories remained evergreen. Children whispered of the giant as their elders did before them, weaving images of its vast form lying beneath the trees, hidden like a secret shared only by the land. Some spoke of the giant's enormous hands, which were said to slope downwards like hills. Others imagined its face, serene and partially enshrouded by nature's growth, while still others described the supposed rhythm of its breath, slow as centuries. These tales kept the sleepy giant alive in the imaginations of the people, though no one had seen it for countless years. Despite their distance, the villagers deeply believed in the connection between the giant and the life teeming around Hearthstone Higulus. Its presence was seen as a silent guardian, anchoring the region in a state of perpetual balance. Storms battered the hills less fiercely than they did in neighbouring lands. Droughts never lingered as long as they could have, and even seasons unfolded in a way that felt harmonious. Only the occasional traveller seeking to reach the valley would question whether the giant truly existed. But the villagers would merely smile in reply. No proof was needed for them. The giant's essence lived on in the stillness that cocooned their lives. Still, the sleepy giant's nature was not lost to history, for its story was a part of every moment of the landscape. A rock formation twisted like a colossal limb was attributed to the giant's resting body. A small brook that seemed to sing as it flowed was said to spring from a spot near the giant's brow. Every element of Hearthstone Higulus bore a connection, imagined or real, to it, and this bond secured the giant's place in the heart of the land forever. Above all, the legend of the sleepy giant taught those who heard it to value rest, stillness, and the power of simply being. It was said that whenever an inhabitant of Hearthstone Higulus drifted off to sleep at night, the spirit of the giant watched over them, offering a quiet reassurance that all would be well. And so the people grew to live their lives at a slower rhythm, never rushing, never panicking, but always mindful of the deep, serene wisdom the giant symbolized. Thus the sleepy giant of Hearthstone Higulus remained a cherished force of calm, its presence spanning generations and time, a symbol of the tranquility that dwells in the heart of unbroken peace. Hearthstone Higulus remained a village unlike any other, where time flowed like a placid river, unrushed and steady. Its people embraced simplicity, finding joy in the subtle rhythms of life. Fields of lavender stretched further than the eye can see, their fragrance drifting through the air. The seasons themselves seemed to follow the giant's serene example. Spring emerged gradually, with blossoms unfurling like soft whispers. Summer lingered with warm, golden afternoons. Autumn painted the landscape in rich colours of amber and crimson. And winter blanketed the earth in a quiet feeling that mirrored the restful figure lying across the hills. The stories of the sleepy giant grew over time, taking root both in the hearthside tales of elders and in the whispered dreams of little giants. Some spoke of how the giant's steady breath guided the tides of the nearby lake, creating gentle waves that tickled the shores. Others claimed that the wildflowers blooming on the giant's resting form were unlike any other, with petals that shimmered and hues that changed with the light, as though they contained the essence of dawn and dusk. Among the villagers, there was a tradition of pilgrimage to the crest of the hill, where one could see the distant outline of the giant most clearly. At sunrise, families would gather at the peak, laying down woven mats with fruits, bread, and grain, offerings of gratitude for the giant's watchful slumber. It was said that the sleepy giant's calm radiated outward, infusing anyone who approached with a deep tranquility that lingered long after they descended the hill. Generations continued to pass, but the giant remained unchanged, timeless. And yet, there was an understanding among the villagers that the giant was not merely a presence to be admired from afar. It shared a silent connection with the land, the people, and all that lived in Hearthstone. Farmers planting seeds would pause briefly to whisper their hopes for a bountiful harvest to the sleeping figure, while weavers admired the patterns of stars they said were mirrored in the intricacies of their cloth, believing the giant's influence extended even into their craft. Once every few years, rare and peculiar weather rolled in. A calm, mist-like rain that fell so gently it could almost not be felt at all. The villagers referred to it as the giant's rain, believing it to be a manifestation of the giant's dreams. Crops thrived after such rains, the earth soft and fertile, as if it had been caressed by the giant's resting spirit itself. Children, playful and eager, would dance and laugh in the light drizzle, imagining themselves part of the giant's dreams placing their laughter into eternal stillness. Hearthstone Higulus had its share of challenges too, for no place is free of them entirely. There were storms that shook the skies, times of scarcity where the land yielded less, and even moments of discord among its people. Yet, in those times, the villagers would look to the distant outline of the hillside where the sleepy giant rested. His unchanging position reminded them to remain steady, to weather any hardship with the same calmness that he exuded. The giant became more than a symbol. It was imprinted into the identity of the people, a steadfast reassurance that serenity could withstand the tests of time. One autumn, when the crisp air carried a bittersweet sense of endings and beginnings, a young villager named Arlen found himself drawn to the giant's hill more often than others. He carried in with him the restlessness of youth, but also a deep, abiding curiosity about the tales that surrounded the legendary figure. Unlike others who visited the hill in silent meditation, Arlen began sketching the patterns of wildflowers that grew on the slopes. He marveled at how no two blooms were the same, each petal holding patterns so intricate they appeared to echo the turning of stars. The elders noticed Arlen's fascination and began to share with him the lesser-known tales passed down for centuries. They spoke of an ancient belief that the sleepy giant was not merely resting, but dreaming. A dream so vast and all-encompassing that it held the essence of Hearthstone's harmony. They whispered that perhaps the reason the village seemed untouched by time's chaos was that all who dwelled there were part of the giant's dream, that their lives resonated with the rhythm of its peaceful slumber. Arlen's curiosity only deepened. Inspired, he began crafting small carvings of the giant, with each piece like the patterns of stars, waves and petals he observed on the hillside. He gave these carvings to travellers who passed through Hearthstone, and soon the tales of the sleepy giant began to spread beyond the village's borders. Visitors arrived to see the legendary figure resting across the hills and to experience the peace that Hearthstone Higulus offered. They marveled at how time seemed to slow, how even the most hurried soul felt deeply compelled to breathe and move serenely. One evening, as twilight crept gently across the land, painting the skies in hues of lavender and gold, Arlen climbed to the hill's crest. He carried with him his latest carving, a small yet detailed representation of the giant, entwined with patterns of flowing rivers and constellations. Sitting cross-legged upon the grass, he placed the carving before him and closed his eyes. Arlen didn't know what he expected. only that he felt a longing to honor this immense, silent presence that had shaped not only the land, but the hearts of the people who called it home. The air was calm, yet moving with the rustling of leaves and the distant murmurs of the village below. Arlen felt the calm seep into his being, as though the hillside itself breathed in tandem with him. For the first time, he understood, not with his mind, but with something deeper, that the sleepy giant was not merely a part of the land, but that the land was an extension of it. Hearthstone Higulus thrived not because of what the giant provided, but because its people had learned to live in harmony with the quiet lessons it stood for. Arlen returned to the village with a renewed sense of purpose. He shared his vision not with words, but through art, storytelling, and acts of mindfulness that reflected what he had experienced on the hillside. His work resonated with the villagers, who in turn found new ways to express their connection to the giant. Musicians composed melodies that echoed the flowing serenity of its slumber. Artisans created tapestries that celebrated the seamless unity of nature, time, and human spirit. The sleepy giant did not stir, as it had not for generations, but it continued to shape lives, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet, enduring reminder that strength lies in stillness, that peace can be found not in resisting life's currents, but in flowing with them. Hearthstone Higulus remained a sanctuary of calm, a place where life unfolded as it was meant to, slowly, steadfastly, and always in tune with the unbroken rhythm of the sleepy giant's dream. The villagers in Hearthstone Higulus were no strangers to the passage of time, nor to the subtle shifts that came with each season. The sleepy giant, timeless and unmoving, surrounded their lives like a great protector of the past and present. With its slopes cloaked in dense, aged forests, and its summit lost in a mist that seemed eternal, the giant had become an anchor for the people who dwell in the valley below. The mornings in Hearthstone Higulus began as they always had, with the calming light of dawn slipping over the horizon and filtering through the dense foliage that clung to the mountain. A soft symphony would accompany the waking world, a rustle of leaves stirred by a breeze, the cheerful chirping of birds greeting the day, and the low murmur of the river that wound its way around the base of the giant. These unchanging melodies had soaked into the fabric of the villagers' daily lives. They moved through their routines, tending crops, weaving fabric, and mending tools with an ease that came from generations of familiarity. Little giants would often find themselves drawn, as if by instinct, to the edge of the forest, where the mountain's shadow began its slow crawl across the land. There, they imagined stories about the sleepy giant, painting grand adventures in their minds. While they had never ventured past where the trees grew thick, they swore they felt its steady presence, a quiet reassurance that whispered of protection. To them, the mountain was active, its dreams shaping the very world they inhabited. Seasons drifted like pages turning in a book. Winter blanketed Hearthstone Higulus in a quilt of white, the cold air sharp but invigorating. By spring, the land would wake in unison with the soft thrum of life pushing through frost and soil. Summers brought warmth and abundance, their days stretching long under the clear skies, while autumn transformed the mountainside into a cascade of golds and reds, as though the giant itself wore the fiery hues as both disguise and offering to the heavens above. Though Hearthstone Higulus's rhythm never faltered, there was always a sense of awe for the mountain beyond what words could express. The villagers felt it when they gathered in the evening, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns. It was there in the way they turned their eyes toward the peak as twilight descended, seeking not answers, but solace. For somewhere in the silence of that unmoving mass lay an ineffable truth that drew them to stillness, a sense of belonging, a reminder of something greater than themselves. Stories were customary during these gatherings, passed from one generation to the next. Elders, with wrinkles etched deep by time and wisdom, spoke with measured voices about how long ago the sleepy giant had faced the storms of the world and endured. Landslides, raging torrents of rain, and the restless shifting of the earth had tried to reshape it. But the mountain remained steadfast. These tales morphed with time, growing richer with every retelling, layering fable upon fact until the line between the two softened. They weren't just stories, they were convictions, a communal belief that Hearthstone's serenity had been woven by the dreams of the mountain itself. Life in the village was slow in the most wonderful way. Days stretched with the wholesome curve of time, and there was never a rush, never the frantic scramble that plagued faraway cities. Each action carried purpose, reflecting time-honored traditions. When villagers wove their baskets, it was as much about the craft as it was about respecting the ancestors who passed down the skill. When farmers laid seeds into the earth, there was a quiet gratitude in their motions, a thankfulness for the land sheltered by the giant's slumber. The mountain's influence extended further than rituals or daily routines. For those who felt lost, its distant silhouette was a quiet reminder of resilience. For those burdened by the weight of their struggles, simply gazing at its unmoving form seemed to lighten the load. Yet it did not ask for recognition nor gratitude. Its presence was effortless, an unspoken offering of strength to those who sought it. The sleepy giant gave by simply existing. Every now and then, the villagers would speak of fleeting glimpses of something more. Giants along the surrounding hills claimed to feel movement in the air when they drew near to the base of the mountain. Woodcutters, tasked with gathering timber from its lower slopes, spoke of moments when the forest seemed to hold its breath, though no one could explain what it meant. And in the village itself, there were rare evenings when the setting sun bathed the mountain's peak in such bright light it appeared to glow, casting an amber radiance across the valley. Those who witnessed it would fall silent, their hearts full of something they could not name. Time moved as it always did, steady yet relentless, and Hearthstone Higulus continued its quiet existence under the watchful gaze of the sleepy giant. Families grew, and new generations took their place in the cycle. The children who had once played at the forest's edge became the storytellers, recounting their own imaginings of the mountain to wide-eyed listeners. And though the village changed in small ways, the giant remained constant, vast, ageless, and silent. Its dreams unknowable, but its presence unyielding. For Hearthstone Higulus, the sleepy giant was more than a landscape. It was the soul of the place, a timeless guardian of the simple, enduring life that flourished in its shadow. And so the seasons turned. The years folded into decades, and the stories of the sleepy giant became threads woven into the fabric of Hearthstone Higulus's history. Perhaps the mountain truly dreamed, or perhaps its stillness was merely a reflection of the lives surrounding it. It didn't matter. The villagers cherished the mystery, for it bound them together. Past, present, and future. Sharing the wonder of something larger than themselves. The sleepy giant watched over them all. Its enduring presence a quiet reminder of the beauty in both stillness and the stories we choose to tell.